Hi there, this is Martin Lakin from Supermani78.com. I had planned and set up for this to be the first of my makeup tutorial videos for Superman cosplay, a subject very close to my heart, having done it for 20 years plus before the term cosplay was even coined, really. Just to pass on some of my knowledge that I've gained over the years, trying to achieve that iconic look with makeup and hair on a budget. Just to bring to you some of the best of what I've managed to achieve, culminating in my appearance in Superman 4 Redux. But something else that's happened in the meantime that I thought would serve as a great prelude to tutorials, and that is that my very good friend in the US, Mr. Jim Bowers of CapeWonder.com, has sent over to me a pair of screen-used, production-made wigs from Superman 3 that the stuntman wore, and he's asked me if I could restore them, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to kind of show the progress of that in advance of doing hair and makeup tutorials, because at least you can see what the real thing looks like before we get on with trying to replicate it. And so in a moment I'll show you exactly how they look today, which isn't how they looked 30 plus years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see if I can bring some life back into them and make them look as they did back in the day. And it got me thinking that what an opportunity it would be to kind of go back and talk about the hair and the makeup of the Superman films. It's a subject that's not really being explored to a great extent, and it forms a massive part of the success of the films as they were. If we go back to how Superman achieved that iconic look in the first place, if you go back to the early days of the comics, Siegel and Shuster, having created this incredible new comic book hero, defined him by a shock of blue-black hair, parted with a forelock, which remained consistent for decades until we find ourselves in the 1970s, where DC artists such as Kurt Swan and Neil Adams broke that forelock into like a kiss curl and slick back sides, and Superman's look really didn't change particularly for a period of 50 plus years. And then you had the movie serials with Kirk Alyn, who naturally had that kind of that wave in his hair that kind of emulated the comic book. And then in the 50s you had George Reeves on TV. He had a very staunch kind of slick back look as well, no kiss curl. And so when we get to 1973, where two independent European producers approached DC Comics and said, we want our next picture to be Superman, DC were understandably cautious about letting their property go for such a huge project. I mean, comic books weren't particularly known for their performance at the box office at that stage, and so it was a hell of a gamble. And so the compromise made, and this is quite a famous thing that occurred, the compromise made is that DC said to the Salkinds, yes, you can have the property, but we're going to write a clause in the contract about something called integrity of character. Now, integrity of character applies to the character of Superman, and you are not to compromise him. That goes for his deeds, but it especially goes for his look. And that's why, as opposed to most of the comic book adaptations and superhero films you see on screen today, where all kinds of liberties are taken with how they look in the cinematic universe as opposed to the comic book universe, the Sarkines were told, this is how Superman looks, this is what you do. And so that's why Christopher Reeve is there in tights, looking exactly as if he's walked off the page of a Silver Age, Bronze Age comic, which I think is part of its, still to this day, is part of its appeal and why it endures so well. But how did we get to that? So the evolution of Superman in terms of style from the comic, if we go back to Jor-El, Jor-El is a very interesting character because at that point Jor-El was literally a retread of Superman's image. It got to the point where when Mario Puzo was writing the first draft of the script, he proposed that the same actor play both Jor-El and Superman, and you can see his You can see his train of thought when it comes to that. However, when Marlon Brando was cast, um, it was decided to make him more kind of benevolent and have this shock of white hair to represent the fact that he's a very intelligent and wizened scientist. But they still maintain that same hairstyle where the kiss curl was incorporated. He had big poofy sides, and it was a very kind of dominant look that contrasted really well. And then that kind of thread of how the hair looked kind of permeates the whole of the first Superman film. Jeff East, who played young Clark Kent, was given a very similar hairpiece with thick sides and the curl just forming, but in black. And so when it came to Christopher Reeve himself, the early publicity shots especially, and the earliest footage shows him with a hairstyle very similar to Jeff's, because that kind of thread, that kind of bloodline for the family is maintained, so the hair is always very similar. It's only later on during the film where he adapts the look that we're all familiar with, where he's very sleek and whatnot, and the makeup crew and the hair crew have had time to kind of really refine the look. Same with the costume, really. So yeah, once the look was established, during the auditions, when Christopher Reeve showed up for the auditions, he had a very conservative haircut. In fact, his hair was quite blonde. He had sandy brown hair. And Richard Donner famously blacked his hair out with shoe polish. And then once he'd been given the part, aside from going straight down to the gym, he was told to grow his hair out and just leave it to us, we'll take care of it. And then they rinsed it with black dye. Chris famously was allergic to dyes, didn't take well to dyes in any fashion. The dye in the costume he was allergic to, and that brought him out in red spots. The dye for his hair, he didn't agree with that either. In Superman 2, things took a bit of a different slant, because the kiss curl was in Donner's film, the kiss curl was quite big, and then for Superman 2 they kind of tightened it up a bit, so it wasn't dominant, but it was still Chris's real hair, and so it comes as a surprise to this day to people. But Christopher Reeve did wear wigs throughout Superman 3 and 4, and so for the Superman 3, Chris was given hairpieces that they weren't really consistent with what we'd seen in Superman's 1 and 2. They had kind of blonde streaks in them. They're very sleek, and the Clark Kent again had similar streaks into them. And then by Superman 4, bearing in mind that after Superman 3, with everybody's contracts fulfilled, there were going to be no more Superman films, but then Canon brought the property and decided to make another film. And with Chris returning, all new hairpieces were made that were much more consistent, I think, with the earlier films, with the appearance of the earlier films. That dark conker brown, no streaks in them. And Stuart Freeborn, the master makeup artist, I think was I think he was with Christopher Reeve for all 4 films, and so he kind of maintained that look, even though it was it's kind of inconsistent. The hair is different. When you look at the 4 films as a unit, so the look kind of varies quite drastically, but at the time it didn't seem unusual at all. And so yeah, that's kind of the history of the hair pieces. And so what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to show you kind of 2, I guess you'd call them historical artifacts from back in the day, worn by Chris's doubles, by his stuntmen, and I'm going to show you how these things are constructed, how they're applied. I'm going to touch upon how they're applied, how they're made, and we're going to bring these things back to life, just like we're going to rock it like it's 1983. Okay, so this is what arrived in the mail. This is the original box, or the box lid at least, from addressed to Joan White, who I just mentioned, hairdressing supervisor for Dove Meat Productions, as we all know, responsible for making the Superman films. And the details are 4 wigs for Richard Hammett and 1 wig
this is crossed out, this portion I'm talking about now. One wig for Mark Stewart, who is known to Superman fans as Chris's double for many scenes in Superman 3 and 4. And it says double for Clark Kent. This is dated 23rd of June 1982. It's when you get to see what's inside that the fun really starts, because here is what we have. Now, it's no wonder that Jim kind of came to me and said, I need some help here because, to all intents and purposes, this looks like roadkill, doesn't it? What are you supposed to do with that? They're not displayable, obviously, that's for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my absolute utmost to make these presentable. I'm going to restyle them, or I say restyle them, I'm going to put them into the style that they were originally intended. To do that, I've bought two blocks, or polystyrene blocks. Those are nice and cheap. And the process is simply going to be, because I don't want to, these are really delicate things, and they're decades old. And I don't want to do, I don't want to wash them or do anything like that. It's supposed to be a sympathetic restoration. I just want to be able to, get that style back, and so they're familiar. It's not until you kind of look at them closely that you kind of think, oh, hang on. You look at some of the traits and you remember from the film, and then I saw that. Look at that. And to just to bring you up to speed with, that's my one. Anything look familiar there? So even though it says on the box they're two Clark Kent wigs, that, with a parting there, says to me, that's a Superman wig all day long. There's nothing inside these. Usually, that's a Velcro strip to attach to the back of the neck, but usually there are handwritten details inside these things, usually to say whose they are. But that's a Superman wig, and as you can see, that's the lace front that I'm talking about. Very delicate. That's why we don't want to be getting stuck into that too much. Yeah, and so when you look at the other one, that's not parted in the same way. That's parted here, and then I got to looking at some of this, and I thought, well, that looks familiar. This blonde streak, and I had another look at the film itself, and I don't know. Unless they really made an effort to kind of put the placement of the hair in exactly the same place on all of the wigs, this could be Christopher Reeve's actual wig from the Smallville scene where he's having where he sat down having a picnic with Nyla Lang. I can't confirm that, obviously. I'm just going to have. I'm going to put these, restyle these and get them as close to what they should be, and then maybe we'll do some side by side comparisons or something. But this is how they start. And yes, they look like the contents of a dog brush, but hopefully when we put these together with this, and I get busy with the brush and a bit of spray, maybe they'll look, hopefully they'll be instantly recognizable as what they are. I've done a quick and sympathetic brush through, but it is very knotted and very kind of, it's going to take some very delicate going over with a comb, I think. But yeah, I'm just a bit, the hairline this is obviously where it's been, definitely where it's been woven. But yeah, Superman has a straight, that's one of the things that I didn't like about it, was the fact that in Superman the movie and 2, that there were visible kind of Christopher Reeve's natural hairline had the parting was there, and then there was like a little gap in the hairline for the curl to form. But this is definitely a widow's peak. You can see on the other side, even when you bring down the obvious remnants of the wave and the kiss curl, you can still see that's bizarre, isn't it? So that's that's Superman 1 pinned. So that's stage 1. This is the Clark wig, and as you can see, I've managed to get it pinned to the block. This one, yeah, again, there's a widow's peak there that that's bothering me, but the difference with this one, as opposed to Superman 1, is that this has incorporated sideburns, which is interesting. there are still traces. If you can, I don't know if you can make it out, but like there's still like bits of wig glue attached to this. Here is the lace, obviously, where it's quite a bit actually. Traditionally, you put like about half an inch of lace is left, and in some publicity pictures, especially in the day now that we're in the high definition era, is that you can look at some of the older pictures running through the Photoshop and whatnot, and certainly for Superman 4, you can definitely see this rim, if you like, of lace on some of Chris's wigs, just to prove that what we already know, that they are in fact hair pieces. But so this is stage one for the second wig. You can see the beginnings, I guess, of the Clark Kent shape and style there. Specifically the Superman 3 streaks, which look more grey under this light, but I think that's down to the fact that there's old product in there. Yeah, there definitely is. Definitely old product. So that's got to come out, which hopefully with water and delicate combing that'll do that, and then we'll have it back. You can see now I've started to work the basic style in. It's been parted. It's interesting though, the construction of this particular hairpiece, because the skull cap starts about here, and you've got a good 1.5 inches of lace forming the hairline, as it were. And as you can see, I've brought that the slick back at the sides and the wave over the top. It was horribly knotted, and it's full of product. And as I'm combing through it now, there's black goo dripping out of it. So God knows what that is. But that's basically, I think that's all I can do for this for now. I'm going to let it dry, and then we'll have another look and we'll work it again, and we'll see if we can't get that final style in. But when it's dried out, and we'll restyle it now that it's free of knots and free of anything that's making it fluff up. I should be able to get a good result out of it. But yeah, that's Clark Kent for now. And now onto the Superman. Having left these to dry overnight, I'm really kind of pleased with the results actually. Now that I've been able to see them for exactly where we are, because as you'll notice, I've managed to work in the very distinctive Superman wave from the roots over. This is obviously for the Superman wig, the Superman hairpiece, and again, I'm still mystified by the fact that this widow's peak, this jagged hairline, should be so. I mean, Christopher Reeve's hair in Superman 3, the hairline is straight as a die. It comes all across here. So it does kind of beg the question. I mean, did they pull the stuntman's own hair through here to kind of blend in with the hairpiece? I guess if you're doing stunts and if you're being seen from behind and from a distance, I guess it doesn't matter so much. It's not a priority. But I'm still really glad that I managed to work this iconic kind of style back in. Obviously it's not finished yet, it's still a bit rough. In fact, it's better shown, better exemplified here in the Clark Kent hairpiece, because this flat kind of wave into the side there, that's exactly how it looked in Superman 3. How wonderful though to have a pair, to have a Superman and a Clark Kent in a stunt wig, and especially now that you can see that they're taking shape and becoming what they should be. There's more work to do. I'm going to take them off the blocks and repin them so the pins aren't obvious. They'll be hidden in the hairline. And once I've given them another brush through, the Superman's especially was dreadfully difficult to comb through, especially this area, because it was full of product and knots. And now it's kind of I've managed to get all of those out, and now it's nice and smooth. So going forward in the future, it shouldn't kind of just regress to the state that it was. I'm going to get them finished off, and we'll have another look when they're done. So here it is, finally finished. Smoothed down, styled as close as I could possibly get it to how it looked back in 1982 during filming at Pinewood for Richard Hammett, stuntman, stunt double for Christopher Reeve. Notice that the kiss curl has been incorporated along with that very distinctive sweep. And you'll notice that Superman being parted on the left, and if we bring in
his alter ego here, Clark Kent, which I've also just finished with a little addition just to make the distinction. You'll notice that Clark parted on the right, Superman parted on the left. Now this is something that was exclusive to the Superman movies, the classic Superman movies. Nobody else has done this since, and nobody else has really kind of paid much attention. If you see subsequent versions of Superman, you'll notice that Superman and Clark Kent's hair is parted on the same side, which is the left, which is what they did in the comics. But with back in '77, part of Chris's acting mythology was to kind of bring as much distinction between the two characters as he possibly could. Obviously, he developed the high-pitched voice, the slouch, the slumped shoulders. So what better way to kind of throw even more confusion into the mix than having his hair parted on the right? And it's a shame it didn't carry on through the other interpretations of him on screen, because that's why Brandon Routh got in so much trouble, because having his hair parted the same way in Superman Returns, yeah, the kiss curl was meant to represent an S. It's meant to be an S shape. If you look, it goes up and it goes around, and it's a very distinctive S shape. In the absence of that, you can't achieve that if you part it on the right. It becomes kind of like a J shape, which kind of looks really weird. And that's what everybody else, since Dean Cain was interesting because he kind of subverted it. He kind of had Superman's hair as Clark Kent and then swept it back for Superman, which is kind of the opposite of what John Byrne did in the 80s in the comics. I don't think it worked particularly. Henry Cavill nowadays, I mean, Henry Cavill in real life, his hair looks more like Superman's than it does when he's in the films. I can't work out exactly why that should be the case. But anyway, I digress. So this is obviously, of course, it's the best interpretation, because look at the distinction between the pair of them. You'd never think that was the same man. So, I'm really proud of these. They were an absolute joy to work on. I'm glad that they're done. They will be heading back across the pond to their owner, Mr. Jim Bowers, and the next time you see them, they will probably be shown on capewonder.com, so look out for them there. All the best. Hope you've enjoyed watching this as much as I've enjoyed doing it.